There's a moment in life when you sit back, take a deep breath, and think, I've worked hard for decades. Now it's time to enjoy the fruits of that labor. But then another thought creeps in. Will my savings last? Am I making the most of my retirement income? If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many of us spend years planning for retirement, only to realize once we get there that making every dollar count is just as important as saving those dollars in the first place. That's exactly why we're talking today about 5 pension and retirement tips to maximize your income. Whether you're already retired or just starting to think about it, these strategies can help stretch your savings further, reduce financial stress, and let you focus on what really matters, enjoying this chapter of your life. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you this. Have you ever looked at your pension or retirement accounts and wondered if there's a smarter way to manage them? Maybe you've heard friends talk about tax-efficient withdrawals or delaying Social Security, but it all feels a bit overwhelming. Well, I'm here to break it down into simple or practical steps. No jargon, just real talk. So let's start with the first tip, understanding your pension options. If you're lucky enough to have a pension, you might be faced with a big decision. Take it as a lump sum or as monthly payments. Now, a lump sum might sound tempting. It's a big chunk of money all at once. But here's the thing. Monthly payments give you a steady, predictable income for life, almost like a paycheck that never stops. And for most of us, that security is worth its weight in gold. Think about it. Would you rather have a guaranteed check every month or risk investing a lump sum and worrying about market ups and downs? Of course, everyone's situation is different, so it's worth sitting down with a financial advisor to crunch the numbers for your specific needs. Next up, delaying Social Security when it pays to wait. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I wait to claim Social Security if I can start getting checks at 62? Well, here's the secret. The longer you wait, up to age 70, the bigger your monthly benefit grows. For every year you delay past your full retirement age, your benefit increases by about 8%. That's like earning an 8% return on your money, something you'd be hard-pressed to find anywhere else. So if you can afford to hold off, maybe by working part-time or dipping into other savings, it could mean thousands more each year for the rest of your life. And that brings us to our third tip, creating a smart withdrawal strategy. Once you're retired, the way you take money out of your accounts can make a huge difference in how long your savings last. A common rule of thumb is the 4% rule, withdrawing 4% of your nest egg in the first year, then adjusting for inflation after that. But it's not one size fits all. For example, if you have a mix of taxable accounts, IRAs, and Roth IRAs, the order you tap into them matters for taxes. Generally, it's wise to use taxable accounts first, then traditional IRAs, and let Roth accounts grow tax-free as long as possible. And don't forget required minimum distributions, RMDs, after age 73. Missing those can lead to hefty penalties. So mark your calendar. Now we've covered 3 key strategies so far: understanding your pension, considering when to take Social Security, and crafting a smart withdrawal plan. But there are 2 more game-changing tips we'll explore next, including how to reduce taxes in retirement and ways to generate extra income without going back to work full-time. Because here's the truth, retirement isn't just about surviving on your savings, it's about thriving, enjoying peace of mind, and making the most of every day. So, let's keep going. You've worked hard your entire life, saved diligently, made smart choices, and dreamed of the day when you could finally relax and enjoy your golden years. But here's the thing, retirement isn't just about having money, it's about keeping as much of it as possible. And that brings us to our next tip, reducing taxes in retirement. Now, I know taxes aren't exactly the most exciting topic, but stick with me, because a little strategy here can save you a lot of money. Think of it like this. Would you rather hand over a big chunk of your savings to the IRS or find ways to keep more of it in your pocket? Exactly. So let's talk about how to do that. First, consider tax diversification. Just like you wouldn't put all your eggs in one basket with investments, you shouldn't rely solely on taxable accounts in retirement. If you have a mix of taxable accounts, traditional IRAs, which are taxed when you withdraw, and Roth IRAs, tax-free withdrawals, you can strategically pull from different sources to minimize your tax bill. For example, in years when your income is lower, you might withdraw from a traditional IRA to stay in a lower tax bracket. Then in years when you need extra cash, tap into your Roth savings to avoid pushing yourself into a higher bracket. It's all about flexibility, and that's the key. Another smart move: managing required minimum distributions, RMDs. Once you hit 73, the IRS requires you to start taking money out of traditional IRAs and 401ks, whether you need it or not. And if you forget, the penalty is a whopping 25% of what you should have withdrawn. Ouch! But here's a little trick. If you don't need the money right away, consider using your RMDs to fund a Roth IRA conversion if you're eligible, or donate directly to charity through a qualified charitable distribution (QCD). That way, you fulfill the IRS requirement and avoid adding taxable income to your return. Now, let's shift gears to our fifth tip: generating extra income without going back to work full-time. Maybe you love the idea of staying active and earning a little extra, but the thought of returning to a 9-to-5 job sounds exhausting. I get it. The good news? There are plenty of ways to bring in some additional cash without sacrificing your freedom. One option: turning a hobby into income. Do you love woodworking, knitting, or gardening? Platforms like Etsy, local craft fairs, or even Facebook Marketplace can help you sell your creations. Not only does this bring in some extra money, but it also keeps you engaged and doing something you love. Another idea? Renting out unused space. If you have a spare room, a garage, or even a parking spot, websites like Airbnb or Neighbor.com let you rent it out with minimal effort. Or, if you've downsized and have furniture or collectibles sitting in storage, selling them could give your savings a nice little boost. And let's not forget part-time or seasonal work, but on your terms. Maybe you'd enjoy working a few hours a week at a local garden center, tutoring online, or even becoming a tour guide in your area. These jobs can provide social interaction, a sense of purpose, and a paycheck, all without the stress of a full-time commitment. So we've covered two more powerful strategies: reducing taxes and finding creative ways to supplement your income. But before we wrap up, there's one last game-changing tip to discuss: how to protect your nest egg from unexpected expenses and market downturns. Because let's face it, life happens, and the last thing you want is to see your hard-earned savings disappear due to a medical emergency or a bad year in the stock market. That's exactly what we'll dive into next: how to safeguard your retirement income so you can enjoy your years ahead with confidence and peace of mind. Because retirement should be about freedom, not financial worry. So, let's keep going. You've made it this far in life through decades of hard work, smart decisions, and careful planning. Now, as you settle into retirement, there's one last piece of the puzzle we need to talk about: protecting what you've built. Because no matter how well you've planned, unexpected expenses, a medical emergency, a home repair, or a market downturn can throw a wrench into even the most solid retirement strategy. So let's talk about our final tip: safeguarding your nest egg. First up, emergency funds. You might think, I'm retired. Do I really still need an emergency fund? The answer, absolutely. In fact, it might be more important now than ever. When you were working, a sudden expense could be covered by your next paycheck. But in retirement, dipping into your investments at the wrong time, like during a market slump, can hurt your savings long term. A good rule of thumb: keep at least 6 months to a year's worth of living expenses in a safe, easily accessible account, like a high-yield savings or money market fund. That way, if your car breaks down or your roof starts leaking, you won't have to panic sell stocks or rack up credit card debt. Next, insurance review. When was the last time you took a close look at your health, home, or long-term care insurance? As we age, our needs change, and so should our coverage. For example, if you're on Medicare, you might want to consider a supplemental plan, Medigap, to help with out-of-pocket costs. Or, if you're still paying for life insurance but your kids are grown and your mortgage is paid off, you might not need as much coverage as before. And let's talk about long-term care. No one likes to think about it, but the reality is 70% of seniors will need some form of care in their lifetime. Policies can be expensive, but even a small plan can prevent your savings from being wiped out by nursing home costs. A financial advisor can help you weigh the pros and cons based on your situation, and finally, staying flexible with your budget. Retirement isn't a set-it-and-forget-it phase. It's a dynamic time where your needs and the economy will shift. Some years you might splurge on travel or spoiling the grandkids. Other years you might need to tighten the belt a little, especially if the market takes a dip. The key? Regular check-ins. Every few months, take a look at your spending, your investments, and any changes in your life. Maybe you'll realize you're spending less on gas now that you're not commuting. Or maybe you'll notice a subscription service you forgot to cancel. Small tweaks can make a big difference over time. Now, let's take a step back and look at the big picture. We've covered 5 powerful ways to maximize your retirement income. 1. Understanding your pension options, weighing lump sums versus steady payments. 2. Delaying Social Security, when waiting can mean bigger checks for life. 3. Smart withdrawal strategies, making your savings last with tax-savvy moves. 4. Reducing taxes, keeping more of your hard-earned money. 5. Protecting your nest egg, because peace of mind is priceless. But here's the most important thing to remember. Retirement isn't just about money. It's about living well. It's about having the freedom to enjoy your days, spend time with loved ones, and pursue the things that bring you joy. And with these strategies in place, you can do just that, with less worry and more confidence. So, as we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. What's your biggest retirement question or challenge? Drop a comment below. Maybe your tip will help someone else in our community. And if you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more straightforward, no-nonsense advice on making the most of your golden years, because you've earned this chapter. Here's to a retirement filled with joy, security, and the freedom to enjoy every moment. Thanks for watching, and go make it a great day. Do subscribe to keep the circle growing.